So the workshop area is still a bit of a mess, and my batteries did not arrive today even though they were supposed to, but I did want to take the time to run a test. So I've got the old lab power supply set up here to about 5.2 volts. Very simple circuit with my Arduino Uno plugged in, and that is hooked up to our giant reel of NeoPixel. Yay! So this test is going to accomplish a few things. The very first thing, and the whole reason I am doing the test, is the original spacing I calculated was 1 inch, which this is as close to as I can make it. And that's center to center. However, you may notice 1 inch spacing, this is not. It is slightly more. It's actually 1.3 inches. And I have it set to my triangular pattern there. So it's sort of like the layout of the stars on the US flag. So this test is going to accomplish a few things. First of all, I'm going to make sure that the reel works. I've never actually used this reel, even though I bought it about 6 months ago. Secondly, it's going to allow me to put a couple of different types of fur on it. This is the husky fur that you can get at Joann Fabrics. And this one, I'm not actually sure what it is. I bought it at the convention, but they're slightly different types of fur, so I'll be able to test that. And finally, I want to see how the fur is going to look when it's backlit, both during daylight conditions, which this more or less is. Each of these tubes is 40 watts of LEDs, so yeah. And then I'll also try it once during nighttime settings. Now, I don't have any spectacular sequences lined up for these LEDs. I'm using the basic test one, which is going to run through red, green, blue. It's going to run flashing lights, then it's going to run a rainbow fade, and a couple others. But let's begin. We're gonna plug in now and get some light. And we can see that it is very slowly lighting up all the lights in the reel, so that is good. And now it's switching to green lights. All the lights should turn green, and then to blue lights. And you can see a little bit of glow from the fur there already. That's very loosely placed against the fur. So then it goes into the chaser in the red, green, and then it's going to go into the color fade. Now it's very slowly fading between the colors, and it looks kind of psychedelic, actually. But this is the point now where I'm going to set the phone down momentarily, pull the fur over, I almost said pull the wool over, and we're going to see what it looks like. Excuse me one moment. Alright, so we have daylight conditions. There is kind of a very strong point light effect. You can definitely, well, now especially, but you can definitely tell where all the lights are in this. I need to wait till we get back to a steady stream here. Actually, this could take a while. I'm going to actually restart the loop because that'll play single colors. So it's kind of obvious where each one of the lights are, and they are running from about here to here. But overall, I don't think the effect looks too bad. It actually looks a bit better in person than it does on the camera. The camera is really kind of blowing out the highlights there. But now, let's turn off the lights and see what it looks like. And we're just coming to the color fade section of the code. And that is also kind of playing havoc with my camera. Again, in person, the points on the lights do not look quite as bright as they do in this. So this is running the red, the green, and the blue at full power each and kind of cycling between them. This is a little bit brighter than my code is intending to run them because it can't run full power for the entire duration, especially for white. In fact, my power wire down here is actually getting kind of warm because it is currently pulling. What did I calculate that out to? I don't even remember. Ooh, that looks fun. So this is the kind of resolution that my tail is going to have. It's Might even be a little bit smaller than this. I haven't worked out the core dimensions yet, but again, I have to wait till I get my batteries so I can calculate exactly what that's going to look like. But it doesn't look too bad. I think I can roll with this. And this is altering every other light, so that's cool that it lines up like that so well. That looks really neat. I like it. And this thing's just going nuts. Oh my god. It's like Christmas at ground zero over here. So overall, this is a fairly successful test. My wire has not burst into flames yet. Oh god, we're back to this. So yeah, I'm getting consistent enough of light with this. It's got hot spots on it. But the other thing to consider also is these are not waterproof lights. These lights are open right up to the environment. So I'm actually going to be going over them with a silicone adhesive. E6000 is what I'm planning to use, actually. And that will diffuse the light a little bit more on top of that even. So ultimately, I think we're going to be good with this. I'm going to just quickly see if I can get the other fur on here easily enough. Not terribly easily, unfortunately. Because of the way I designed this thing, which is to say I really didn't. This was a quick, how do I get the spacing right to test it? Okay, well, it's not pressed perfectly flat, but here's the other fur. It's essentially the same thing. If I could get a little bit of distance between the lights and the fur, that would be better. Unfortunately, there's not a good way to do that in a fursuit. Unless I'm making myself an inflatable, and no, I'm not Baymax. So, a successful test, I would say. That's just pretty. I'm going to watch that for a while. Eee, look at it go.